Alright, let's keep the deep dive into SpongeBob Season 1 going with Muscle Bob Buff Pants. And I mean, if you know Ball, you already know that this is a really good SpongeBob episode. But before we dive into all of the production details and behind the scenes details and Easter eggs and all that stuff, let's talk about the plot so you guys have context. Now, at the start of this episode, SpongeBob is trying to work out, but the dude can barely even lift these two stuffed animals. But then Sandy shows up and makes things even worse by casually revealing just how ripped she is. I mean, look at Sandy's arms, dude, like she is jacked. She tries to help SpongeBob by bringing him over to her tree dome for some real training. But instead of motivating SpongeBob, it just makes him feel even worse. But that's when he ends up seeing a late night infomercial for Anchor Arms.
With Anchor Arms! They slip on like a glove. Just add air.
These inflatable muscle arms that make him look just as jacked as Sandy without doing any of the actual work. The commercial is actually really funny because it feels very accurate to those early 2000s infomercials. I'm a millennial, so I actually grew up with these on TV, but this scene also introduces the shark nerd character. Now in the commercial, he's supposed to be the before version of the tough guy who uses anchor arms, but the production team ended up taking that nerdy shark design and reusing him as a regular background character. He is admittedly pretty rare, but he has shown up a handful of times since his debut, appearing in episodes like SpongeGuard on Duty, and even years later in Boss for a Day. So I guess in universe, maybe he was just an actor in the commercial. Like the nerdy shark guy and the more confident one that uses anchor arms are probably just two different actors, you know, because it was a commercial. But moving on, after SpongeBob gets his anchor arms in the mail, he immediately heads down to Goo Lagoon to show off around all of the other bodybuilders. And this scene is actually pretty important because it gives us the second appearance of Muscle Beach. This is when the location actually gets its name. It isn't said out loud, but we see it on a billboard sign right at the beginning of the scene. And just saying, I love the spelling here because even though the whole area is clearly based around muscles and weightlifting, the sign spells muscle like this, M-U-S-S-E-L, instead of how you would actually spell a bicep muscle, you know, M-U-S-C-L-E. And this is a cute little pun referencing actual muscles, if you guys don't know. These things, the little shell-covered creatures you find on beaches, which just saying, I feel kind of evil saying this considering the context, but that's actually one of my favorite seafoods. But anyways, lucky for us, some early artwork of this location and the billboard has been released over the years, so we can actually compare the rough version of Muscle Beach to what it ended up being in the final episode. The shots are pretty similar, as you can see here. Speaking of that early artwork though, you may have noticed that this episode had a different title during production. As you can see on the artwork I literally just showed you, it was originally called Pump It Up, which honestly makes a lot of sense because SpongeBob literally has to pump up the anchor arms to make them work. We see him do this multiple times in the episode. I will say though, I do think Muscle Bob Buff Pants is a lot better. It's just an iconic title, but maybe that's because I'm used to it.
Have you guys seen SpongeBob anywhere?
You mean Muscle Bob Buff Pants? He's in there!
Whatever, thanks.
Now once SpongeBob gets to Muscle Beach, we get a slow panning shot of all of the bodybuilders working out. And this is where the episode introduces us to a bunch of new incidental variants. Before this episode, the show already had a few muscular background characters, the most notable being Incidental 24, who first appeared back in Ripped Pants. But because Muscle Bob Buff Pants is so focused on weightlifting and bodybuilders, the production team needed more variety than just using the same beach-goer fish that were all introduced for Goo Lagoon back in Ripped Pants. So to solve this, they created multiple variants of Incidental 24, with around 6 different versions being made. Each one was given a different letter to separate them. For example, there's Incidental 24B, Incidental 24C, and Incidental 24Q, and so on. As you can see, they all have the same general bodybuilder look, but they each use different colors and slightly different fin shapes to make the beach feel more populated. It's a very small thing, but I really like that the artists put this much effort into what could have been easily just another throwaway background shot. Also, what's interesting here is that even though they were just made for this one episode, some of the variants have continued popping up years later. For example, Incidental 24B and Incidental 24Q even appeared again in season 16, during this shot right here. So yeah, the production team is still pulling from these old bodybuilder designs. Now right after all of those variants are introduced, SpongeBob shows up with his fake muscles, and everyone at the beach is shocked. They barely even recognize him, which is hilarious, since he looks exactly the same except for, you know, the new giant ripped arms that he has. Everyone questions if this is the same SpongeBob that they know, and in response, SpongeBob says the following.
Who are you expecting? Tiny Tim? Wait, Wait. How big are they?
Now, I personally didn't get this, I stole this from the wiki, but this is actually a very random reference to the real Tiny Tim, the singer of the song Livin' in the Sunlight, Lovin' in the Moonlight, which might not be very recognizable to you guys at first, but if you're a true SpongeBob fan, you'll know it the second you hear it, since it was used back in Help Wanted during the scene where SpongeBob feeds all of the anchovies and saves the Krusty Krab. Like I said, it's a very random callback, and I doubt most people would catch it, but hey, I love random shit like this, as you guys know. Now from here, SpongeBob starts showing off a little too much, and Sandy eventually pushes him into the beach's anchor throwing competition. This is obviously a huge problem for SpongeBob because the dude only looks strong. He is still a pretty big weakling. For example, earlier in the episode, he can't even lift his drink up at the juice bar. So throwing an anchor is like completely out of the question. But yeah, once the competition begins, the episode introduces another type of background character, and that's the crowd incidentals. These were created because the competition needed an audience in the bleachers, and instead of animating a ton of unique fish individually, the animators made 6 crowd incidentals and looped their movements. Here, I'm gonna show you guys. If we watch the audience shots closely, especially if we slow them down, we can see that they all use the same animations. They're just like repeated and looped and timed differently to give the illusion that there's a bunch of different fish here in this crowd. It's actually a really smart animation shortcut because it makes the scene feel busy without requiring every single character to be animated from scratch. Even to this day, the show uses this technique. For example, here's a more recent episode. If we look at the episode Sports and we look at all of the different crowd shots, we can see that they still loop animations, but at least at this point, there's a ton of different variety with the different incidentals. Now, as expected, SpongeBob completely fails once it's his turn. The dude can't lift the anchor and his fake arms end up exploding, which results in everybody realizing that SpongeBob was just capping and lying the entire time. The dude literally ordered mussels in the mail. Talk about LARPing. See guys, I'm a millennial, but I learned that word the other day. I know what LARPing means now. Am I cool, guys? Am I cool? To all my Gen Z viewers, am I cool now?
No.
But yeah, weirdly enough, it seems that SpongeBob might not have been the only one cheating during this scene. As if we watch Sandy during the competition, she doesn't actually throw her anchor like everyone else. She like throws it upward and then kicks it when it comes back down. Now, in a real competition, this move would probably get her disqualified immediately because that is absolutely not like a normal throw. But in the episode, she actually gets the highest score and wins anyways. But yeah, it's easy to miss, but Sandy technically cheats in this episode as well. Moving on though, this competition also gives us a small but interesting piece of incidental character lore. The character Incidental 32 had already appeared before this episode in Ripped Pants, but at this point he was just another beach background character. However, in MuscleBob Buff Pants, the announcer actually gives him a name when he competes.
First up, Dom the Whale.
200 yards!
Wow, let's see an instant replay.
It's very easy to miss because it's just a quick announcement during the contest, but now you know that this is the episode where Don the Whale first got an actual name. But also though, the same thing happens with Sandy. Before this episode, we didn't actually know Sandy's last name. We only know that her name was Sandy and she was a squirrel. But when the announcer also calls her up to compete, he refers to her as Sandy Cheeks, thus giving us the first reveal of her full name. So yeah, this episode actually quietly adds a ton of little bits of lore to the series. It's just very easy to miss because I mean, who pays attention to this stuff? But now you know, if you're ever with a group of friends, you can be like, just so you know, Sandy got her last name for the very first time in MuscleBob Buff Pants.
Loser.
Now I'm gonna move on from this episode soon, but I've got a couple of more things. And the next one takes place during that same competition scene, as when Larry throws his anchor, the grunting noise sounds like it's performed by a completely different voice actor. Here, let's take a listen to Larry's regular voice.
Dude, you're ripped.
And now let's take a listen to the noise he makes when he throws the anchor in this episode.
Larry the Lobster.
Yeah, it sounds completely different, and it actually sounds very familiar. And that's because it was likely performed by the voice actor of Patrick, Bill F. I mean, I'm gonna play the clip again, and you'll hear it like that 100% sounds like Patrick, right?
SpongeBob, is that you?
Now, I don't know why this happened, but it was most likely a situation where like Larry's voice actor did not record that line, but Patrick's voice actor was in the studio, so they just had him do it, which also makes sense considering the fact that like Patrick is a main character, so he'd probably be in the studio all the time, the voice actor, whereas Larry was more of like a side or background character in season 1. He only appears a few times, so I doubt that his voice actor was in the studio as often as Bill, Patrick's voice actor, so they just had Patrick's voice actor do the line again. I'm over explaining this, but it tripped me out when I heard it, and now you guys know. But we're not done with this episode yet, as in the end, the episode ends back at Sandy's house, where she gives SpongeBob a new workout routine, where he clicks through TV channels with a remote to strengthen his fingers and arms. Now, I don't know if this actually works, because SpongeBob's arm literally falls off during the scene, but more importantly, this scene actually gave us our first real look at Sandy's living room inside of her treehouse. Before this, we had seen like the inside of her tree dome before, and we also got one very quick bedroom shot in Sandy's rocket. I'm showing it on screen right here. But this one scene at the ending of Muscle Bob Buff Pants is the first time that we got to see a more detailed interior living space inside of the treehouse itself. And it's funny because it only appears for like a few seconds, but the background painting is actually like really detailed. And here's another random but fun fact about the scene. There's even rough artwork showing what the location looked like before it was fully colored and finished. I got this from the SpongeBob wiki, so shout out to them. Okay, and here's one last final fact about this episode before we move on to another one. It's very random, but some of the shots of Perch Perkins doing commentary during the anchor throwing competition appear in the 2008 movie Cloverfield. They can be seen playing on TVs inside an electronics store. You have to like pause to actually see it, but here you go, it's right here. And you know, this makes me wonder, does Nickelodeon need to give permission to do something like this, right? Given the context of the scene, I don't know if they got permission. Like, it happened so quickly. Did they pay Nickelodeon money to have a SpongeBob episode appearing on this TV? I actually just Google searched it, and no, they don't have to pay for something like this. It's because of the context of the scene. But yeah, that's this episode, guys. There was a ton of cool stuff, and let's head over to another one. Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost doesn't have like a crazy amount of behind the scene details or Easter eggs, but there are still a few cool things worth pointing out. Now, the main plot is all about SpongeBob and Patrick thinking they accidentally killed Squidward after melting a wax sculpture he made of himself.
That's it.
We're almost there. We can do this.
It's
There.
working,
This
it's
is working. This is working.
There.
This is working. Patrick, this isn't working.
After this, the real Squidward walks out covered in powder. And because they think that they just literally killed him, they start to think that the real Squidward is the ghost of the Squidward they killed, and they immediately panic. From there, Squidward realizes what's going on and takes full advantage of it, which makes sense because, you know, it's Squidward we're talking about here.
Here?
No, too wet. Keep going. Keep going.
Here?
Too loose, la track.
He forces SpongeBob and Patrick to do whatever his ghost commands, with them under the impression that if they don't, they'll be haunted for the rest of their lives. This whole setup happens pretty early in the episode, and luckily, a lot of early artwork and storyboard material from these scenes has surfaced over the years, and I've got my hands on all of it thanks to the SpongeBob wiki. For one, there's an early sketch of SpongeBob and Patrick reacting after they think they melted Squidward, and a shot of the sculpture's face with Patrick's butt imprint in it. And there's even a storyboard panel of SpongeBob and Patrick begging Squidward's ghost not to punish them. Which, as you've seen, I've lined up all of these different, pieces of art with the final scenes from the episode. And yeah, it's really cool to see how much of the original staging made it into the final episode, right? Heck, the art team even made model sheets for the fake wax Squidward sculpture itself, which is kind of insane when you remember that it only exists to get melted down. It's like in the episode for like maybe 30 seconds. But that's one thing I've really noticed while covering season 1. The production team put a lot of effort even into the smallest one-off props and character designs. Which I will say, maybe that was normal for cartoons from this era, but it still shows how much care went into the final product. Those model sheets also reveal a pretty neat production detail. As you can see right here, during development, this episode had a different title. It was originally called Squidward's House of Wax. The writer of this episode, Sherm C, later confirmed online via Twitter that this title was partially a reference to the 1953 horror film House of Wax, which kind of makes like perfect sense when you know the plot. And just saying, I found that interaction with Sherm C on Twitter myself. I didn't get that from the wiki. But yeah, let me know in the comments what title you guys prefer. Like, if you think about it, Squidward's House of Wax actually explains the original joke of the episode even more clearly than the final title. But I mean, Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost is so iconic. And also, just another random bit of trivia for you guys, Squidward the Unfriendly unfriendly ghost was most likely a reference to Casper, you know, like come on. Also, speaking of Squidward's house, I really want to highlight the interior of his home during these opening scenes, especially his art room. Squidward had already been established as an artist before this, mainly through these self-portraits we seen back in the episode Opposite Day, which is where, you know, the art team really started to add this element to Squidward of him being an artist back in Opposite Day. But this episode pushes that idea even further, with his art room having way more personality in this episode. Back in Opposite Day, all we had were the typical self-portraits of Squidward, copied and pasted throughout his house as you can see here. But in this episode, we get a couple of really unique paintings that look different from anything we had seen in his house up to this point. Like, just look at these two paintings, they actually look really cool. And it kind of highlights that Squidward is actually a good artist. Squidward's so narcissistic that all of the art he makes is about himself, which makes it come across as lame. But if you actually look at these pieces, like if your friend painted this, you'd be like, yo, you're really good at art. Plus, I mean, at least Squidward didn't use AI to make these photos. On top of those two paintings though, there's also this strange blue art piece of his head. It's kind of weird, but it's cool. There's also this custom vase right here that Squidward presumably made. And more importantly, there's his iconic bonsai tree right here. That bonsai would actually become a reoccurring part of Squidward's collection, showing up again in later episodes like A Friendly Game, or even later episodes in the modern era, for example in The Clam Whisperer. Plus also just saying the whole plot of this episode is caused by a sculpture Squidward made himself. So the main point I'm making here is that at this point, the writers and art team were clearly leaning harder into Squidward being an artist. If you've watched all of my season 1 videos, you've gotten to see the evolution of Squidward's character. Like when he first was in the show, he was just SpongeBob's rude, annoying neighbor. Well, I guess SpongeBob was actually the annoying one, but you get what I mean. But by this point, Squidward actually has a personality. He has a last name, which was also introduced in Opposite Day. And he has specific character traits that are exclusive to him. And just, yeah, I love this shit. Now, later in the episode, when SpongeBob and Patrick are cleaning Squidward's house and trying to serve his ghost, they come across a book, and this leads into another important detail, as this episode technically served as the debut of the Flying Dutchman. Well, kind of.
It's the origin of the Flying Dutchman. It says when he died, they used his body as a window display. Now he haunts the 7 seas because he was never put to rest.
As an air date order, this was the first time that viewers and fans like you or me ever saw the character, but he doesn't physically appear. We only see pictures of him in this book right here. And hey, the dude doesn't even have his iconic voice yet. Still though, this was the first time the character was ever shown on screen. But what's funny about this is that this wasn't originally meant to be his proper debut. It turns out that the Flying Dutchman was actually created for the Halloween special Scaredy Pants, which would air later on after this episode. And he actually shows up in that episode scaring the crap out of SpongeBob and everybody else at the Krusty Krab. But because Scaredy Pants aired after this episode, Squidward the Unfriendly Ghost became his first appearance by technicality. I would have loved that, you know, the Flying Dutchman appears in Scaredy Pants, but then he has a reappearance in this episode. I love that stuff. You know, in modern SpongeBob, I think a lot of people have been spoiled with this because, as I've said a million times, characters like Bubble Bass and Lady Upturn, they pop up all the time now. But back in like season 1, 2, and 3, it wasn't like that. A lot of characters were one-offs. So I love when these one-off characters will make multiple appearances in a season. It builds up the world of SpongeBob. Okay, and one last quick detail before we move on to another season 1 episode, and that's that this episode actually randomly showed up outside of SpongeBob years later, as the scene where SpongeBob and Patrick cling onto each other in fear was briefly featured in the 2019 film Pet Sematary. The character Ellie can be seen watching the episode while looking around the house suspiciously. It's a pretty random cameo, but it's cool that even years later, like almost 20 years later, this episode is still being referenced. The episode Teacher's Pests from season 11 has a ton of Easter eggs. In this boating school episode, Mr. Krabs and Plankton are forced to attend Mrs. Puff's class, alongside their favorite person, SpongeBob, after a road rage incident. The premise sets up plenty of nods to past SpongeBob lore, so let's get into that, as I know that's what you guys clicked on the video for. Early on, Mrs. Puff shows an instructional boating safety video that pretty much gives tips and is a guide on how to drive a boat. And if this seems familiar weird to you, it's because this entire tutorial video is very similar to another video we got in another episode, Season 5's Boat Smarts. That entire episode, Boat Smarts, is about Mrs. Puff hosting a boating safety documentary that stars SpongeBob and Squidward. So it might not be a direct reference here, but they're very similar. They have the same like vignette effect on, and it's really cool. But if we keep it moving, there's even more Easter eggs. When class begins, SpongeBob excitedly introduces something special, with him explaining how students earn gold star stickers for good behavior.
Did you know that every time you do something good, Mrs. Puff gives you a star sticker?
Stickers? I'm an adult. I don't care about stickers.
If you're a true SpongeBob fan, then you know that this is a direct callback to the iconic episode, New Student Starfish, where SpongeBob was the star pupil with a whopping 74 stars to his name across the episode.
And those drinks are recorded here on the Good Noodle Board.
Oh, sorry.
In a funny bit of continuity error, here, SpongeBob has 0 stars on the board. But to be fair, this might be good continuity. It might be because it's been so many years since New Student Starfish. Maybe the board got reset. Plus, there's still boating school episodes, but we don't see SpongeBob in boating school like we used to, so maybe that's why. But nonetheless, SpongeBob has 0 stars in this episode, despite having a bunch back in New Student Starfish. But yeah, let's keep it moving. Mr. Krabs and Plankton become immediately obsessed with this reward system and begin competing by showering Mrs. Puff with fruit to earn stars.
Oh, is someone hungry?
Ooh, a grapefruit.
How about some melon?
Mrs. Puff soon realizes that they're bribing for stickers and snaps, exclaiming, "None of you will get any stars," effectively ending the contest. But this rivalry escalates through the driving test, leading to a chaotic finale. Notably, SpongeBob himself drives perfectly fine during the test, which is actually really weird considering the fact that SpongeBob is like unteachable. As you guys know, there have been so many gags throughout the show where SpongeBob just cannot drive, and he's tried, but he's just not very good at it. But yeah, I wanted to point this out because this is a really funny inconsistency. But let's get back to the Easter eggs, as there's a ton during the mayhem. When Mrs. Puff has had enough of Mr. Krabs and Plankton's antics, she uproots an entire apple tree and whacks them with it, shouting a very specific line.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
So this one's really weird, but this line is actually a sneaky reference to the video game Resident Evil 3 Nemesis, in which protagonist Jill Valentine says the exact same phrase before defeating the final boss.
You want stars? I'll give you stars.
This is a very surprising deep cut, an M-rated game quote tucked into a SpongeBob episode. But hey, it suits Mrs. Puff like pretty well considering she's a crazy character. I guess whoever wrote this episode, or somebody on the art team, or just somebody is a fan of Resident Evil and found a way to sneak it in. They were probably in the middle of a Resident Evil 3 playthrough and were like, I'm just gonna find a way to put this in SpongeBob. The scene even shows cartoon stars circling the dazed Plankton's head. Teacher's Pet also plays with long-term continuity, but they also made a little bit of a mistake. Weirdly enough, Mr. Krabs and Mrs. Puff act like complete strangers in this classroom setting, despite having met and fallen in love back in Krusty Love, and having dated for 16 years as of the episode Whirly Brains.
Mrs. Puff, we've been dating for 16 years now, so I was sincerely hoping that today might finally be the day that
Yes, Eugene?
I steal a little kiss.
Oh!
There's no on-screen explanation for this memory lapse, and was most likely an oversight by newer writers, who maybe didn't know this bit of SpongeBob lore. But hey, I'm an old school fan and I could not help but notice. The episode is packed with visual callbacks as well. In the background is a very familiar billboard. This right here is the Barnacle Chips billboard, representing the cholesterol-free snack from the iconic episode Chocolate with Nuts, which is where this billboard made its first appearance.
Eat barnacle chips, they're delicious.
They are most certainly not delicious.
Not the way I use them.
This exact same billboard also appeared in a later episode, Burst Your Bubble.
You got on the freeway by mistake! Look out!
So its inclusion here, making a third appearance, is a clear wink from the staff to eagle-eyed viewers like myself. This isn't just like a random billboard, I want to make this clear. This is 100% an Easter egg or reference from the production team, and it's really cool. But later, when a driving mishap fuses SpongeBob, Plankton, and Mr. Krabs into one grotesque body, Plankton ends up occupying one of Mr. Krabs' eye sockets.
Mr. Plankton, you were in a horrible boat accident. It's a miracle that you're alive. However, there were some complications.
Hey, what's all the screaming up there? Forget class. Now we can be together forever.
And this might not be a direct reference, but it's a bizarre sight that's directly reminiscent of a gag in another episode. The episode being The Other Patty, where the two rival restaurateurs also combined into a single being.
So,
It's an obscure reference, but side by side, as you can see here, the scenes are very, very close. Finally though, this episode actually had a scene that didn't make it into the final airing, or even just the final version of the episode at all, a deleted scene, where during the last session, SpongeBob unknowingly runs over a line of fake pedestrian cutouts on the test track. I actually was able to find the clip that was cut because Cartoon Corey goes so hard for you guys, and I mean also shout out to the SpongeBob wiki. And yeah, this moment isn't necessarily that dark, but it seems that it was later deemed too edgy for modern SpongeBob, and thus was removed from the episode, which honestly is actually a telling sign of changing standards. In earlier seasons of SpongeBob, a throwaway gag like this definitely would have flown under the radar. Like if you think of SpongeBob seasons 1, 2, and 3, there are tons of jokes like this in those episodes. But it seems that today, Nickelodeon is playing it a little more safe. However, if we go back in time, there are still some gags from earlier SpongeBob that were too inappropriate. And this brings us to our next episode, Just One Bite from season 3. This classic episode centers on Squidward's secret love for Krabby Patties, where basically he acts like he hates them, but once he tries one and takes like the smallest bite you could humanly take, yeah, that was the smallest bite ever. But after this, Squidward becomes addicted to Krabby Patties. And this episode, Just One Bite, is actually famous amongst fans for a scene that vanished after its original airing. This is another deleted scene. The deleted scene in question occurs during Squidward's midnight break-in. In the uncut version, shown only during the Totally Twisted telly premiere back in 2001, Mr. Krabs had set up a booby trap in the Krusty Krab for intruders to prevent people from breaking in when the stores close. But instead of a regular alarm system, he does something pretty crazy. Squidward sneaks through the door only to have a bucket of gasoline tip over and drench him. And what happens next is pretty crazy considering this is a kid's show.
Hey, this isn't water. This is gas.
This over-the-top trap, a bucket of gas, and a robot arm is oddly high-tech for Mr. Krabs, just saying, who usually isn't very tech-savvy, but it certainly shows the lengths that Mr. Krabs would go to protect his secret formula. But here's where the controversy comes in. By early 2002, Nickelodeon removed this gasoline trap scene from all reruns and future releases. They just cut that chunk out of the episode pretty much, so it just jumps. And also, I want to point out, if you're from Canada, this didn't actually happen overseas or in Canada, and let me explain why. You know, I try to keep my content as accessible as possible. That way kids can watch it, and people my age, older people who grew up with the show, can also enjoy these videos. So just a heads up, this part is controversial, but it's also educational as well, I guess. As eventually, the official reason for this scene being cut came out later. The reason it was cut was in part out of sensitivity due to the episode airing shortly after 9/11, and largely due to standards and practices concerns about kids potentially imitating the dangerous gag with matches and fuel. And this isn't just speculation, writer Jay Lender confirmed that even though the scene initially passed Nickelodeon censors, the network reconsidered after the September 2001 attacks. But yeah, like I said, if you're a Canadian boy like me, that's why you remember seeing this scene still, as Canadian airings on YTV still kept the scene in. But yeah, there's a little fun fact for you guys. I know that wasn't necessarily an Easter egg, but in these videos, I'm probably going to start covering trivia and facts as well, and you gotta admit that was interesting. It's stand-up comedy night in our next episode at Camp Coral, with a legendary joke-telling sea kraken, the Wise Kraken, headlining a show for the campers. This episode, Wise Kraken, doubles as a tribute to SpongeBob's comedic past, both in content and in cheeky references. For one, the outdoor comedy venue is dubbed the Comedy Canteen, which immediately rings a bell, at least for me. It seems to be a sly spin on the comedy crab from the classic SpongeBob episode Squirrel Jokes. In that episode, Mr. Krabs briefly turned the Krusty Krab into a comedy club called the Comedy Crab.
Okay, everybody settle down. Welcome to the Comedy Crab.
Here at camp, the Comedy Canteen serves as a similar role. There's a bunch of other similarities between the Comedy Canteen and the Comedy Crab, and it's been theorized that originally it was supposed to be the Comedy Crab. However, I think that the writers forgot that this is a prequel show and that the Comedy Crab wouldn't have existed yet technically. So they had to do a swap and turn it into the Comedy Canteen. This is something I've read on Reddit, but I don't know if this is actually true or not. And to be honest with you, it sounds like a stupid fan theory, so. But before we move on to another episode, here's a fun fact about this one. So as you guys know, Lady Upturn recently has become more of a regular character on the show. She originally was like a one-off character, but since Camp Coral, even in regular SpongeBob like season 13, season 14, 15, and 16, Lady Upturn is in a ton of episodes. There are some episodes where she's like a prominent character, and sometimes she's even the antagonist. And it all started with this episode, as this is the one that introduced her main catchphrase, I am offended.
Why did that sea captain flush the toilet?
Why?
Because it was its duty!
I am offended! Oh!
It's not that big of a deal, but it's cool to see that this is where the catchphrase originated from. Next up is Insecurity Guards. In this one, SpongeBob and Patrick become watchmen at the Bikini Bottom Museum of Everything, and their security antics wreak havoc on the exhibits. But throughout all the museum chaos, a refined figure from SpongeBob's past is hiding in plain sight. If we look at this one scene early on, the camera pans across a crowd of museum goers. And if you're a true SpongeBob fan, you should be able to catch who's in this shot. Roll the footage.
I have to come here to get credits.
Now, rule number 1 of guarding is don't let visitors touch stuff.
No touchy, no feely. Aye, aye.
For those of you who don't know or missed it, this guy right here is Monty P. Moneybags. And if we rewind all the way back to season 2, there was the episode Artist Unknown. Monty P. Moneybags is a wealthy art collector, and Squidward wants to impress him. But as you guys can imagine, this does not go very well.
Good day, sir. My name is Monty P. Moneybags, the world-famous art collector. Do you want to know me? I'm on a shopping spree, buying art for my new museum. Your search is over. How about this one? I call it bold and brash. More like belongs in the trash.
Sorry, I must have missed that one.
Monty Moneybags hasn't appeared in an episode in like 20 plus years. His last and only appearance was back in 2001's Artist Unknown. So to see him again in season 12, silently touring a museum as a background character is a deep cut Easter egg that really caught my attention. And there's more. If we head back to the 2004 SpongeBob SquarePants movie, we were introduced to this version of King Neptune. And as you guys know, his crown was a major aspect of that episode, with it hiding his baldness. This thing was very important to him, but it seems that even years later, it's still missing as a look.
Hey, Patrick, I think that guy's trying to—
Touch that painting!
If we pause right here, we can see that it's still missing, and it can be found in the museum as one of the things that the robbers stole. This is a really cool Easter egg. I mean, that movie came out in 2004, so considering that this episode came out in 2019, it shows that the writers were really paying attention. Also, a fun fact, in this episode we were introduced to this painting right here, and we would not see it for a long time after this. It seemed that originally it was going to be exclusive to this episode in security guards. But if we fast forward years later to the Camp Coral episode, Revel Revolution, it actually appears in this scene right here.
No one wakes us up like you, and I should know. I'm your biggest fan.
Yeah, I go.
I have all your albums.
Here's a side-by-side, and that's definitely the same painting, right? Let me know what you guys think in the comments. On top of that painting, there's a couple of other paintings in this episode that seem to be references. For example, this one painting here with Mr. Krabs and the Krabby Patty, it's actually a reference to The Creation of Adam, a painting made by Italian artist Michelangelo.
What you doing? I'm cleaning centuries of dirt from this priceless painting.
Going too slow.
I think I know how we can speed things along.
Or there's also this painting with Mrs. Puff right here, and it's actually a reference to the Mona Lisa, obviously, one of the most famous paintings ever. And there's actually a bunch of other cool references throughout this episode to famous statues and paintings, but we can't cover them all. So let's head over to another episode with more Easter eggs. Let's talk about the episode Unreal Estate next. It's from season 10. In this one, Squidward tricks SpongeBob into thinking his pineapple house is dangerous to live in, hoping SpongeBob will move away. Well, as SpongeBob daydreams about new homes, the episode pays homage to SpongeBob's history in many subtle ways. Right from the title card, Unreal Estate telegraphs a hidden gag, with its background art being pretty much the same as another episode's background art, Sentimental Sponge. Both cards share a bold, colorful geometric pattern. The only difference is the color, with it being pink in Unreal Estate and yellow or orange in Sentimental Sponge. And while it's possible that they may have just reused the asset, SpongeBob writers and producers and artists in the past have done this, where they use a similar piece of art in the title card to pay homage to an older episode. I am rambling though, and this one definitely sounds like a little bit of a reach, but let's head over to more interesting Easter eggs. Next up is Hot Pearl Tato, another episode from Camp Coral. When a baby Pearl Krabs shows up at Camp Coral, SpongeBob and friends struggle to babysit the mighty infant. I mean, considering how much of a pain Pearl is like in regular SpongeBob, just imagine like baby Pearl. This girl one time almost flooded the entire Krusty Krab because she couldn't find a date to prom.
Here, take SpongeBob!
The fry cook! Do you know what that would do to my complexion? People will mistake me for a planetarium.
What do you mean?
I don't know.
So just imagine a baby version of her, oh my god. As I expected, she's a handful, crawling off into the woods, which leads to some wild encounters with mythical camp critters. In one scene, SpongeBob's camp buddies, Bubble Bass, Kevin, and Harvey, break out a board game called Escape from Mom's Basement. This hilarious fictional game is a wink at adult Bubble Bass's well-known living situation. I mean, also here's a side-by-side, as this game, Escape from Mom's Basement, basically looks exactly like adult Bubble Bass's actual setup in his mom's basement. And yeah, this is definitely the writers having a little bit of fun here. Later on in the episode, as SpongeBob and Squidward chase baby Pearl through the kelp forest, they bounce off a slumbering giant creature. And this thing should be familiar to you guys. It's a sea moose, also known as a moose snail. Now, eagle-eyed fans may recognize this beast, as it first appeared in the main series episode, A Cabin in the Kelp, blocking the Gal Pals road trip. Seeing it here marks the creature's return, now in a CG form, as it swats at SpongeBob and Squidward until Pearl shows off her inherited strength. The episode even brings in a campfire legend, a sea bear. And for those of you who don't know, the sea bear first appeared in the episode, The Camping Episode.
Maybe it's because you're not wearing your sombrero in a goofy fashion.
You mean like this?
No, like that.
It's had a few brief appearances since then, but its main role has been in the camping episode from season 3 where it beats up Squidward. So it appearing here is definitely some sort of reference. So yeah, lots of interesting Easter eggs in this episode, and let's keep it moving. In Season 12 Swamp Mates, Patrick and Bubble Bass get lost in a murky kelp swamp during a playdate gone wrong. Now, before we get into the Easter eggs, I actually want to talk about a deleted scene for this episode. Originally, there was supposed to be a scene where Bubble Bass and Patrick were sucked on by leeches. More specifically, their butts. As his butt was getting sucked on, Bubble Bass was going to say, "Leeches, my cheeks, I'm nothing without my bubbly orbs." However, it was revealed that this scene was eventually cut. There are the images of it that I've been showing, especially this one right here, where they're literally sucking his butt. The joke isn't really inappropriate, but I can understand why it was cut considering it is a kid's show. Here's a couple more fun facts before we get into the Easter eggs for this one, because there's some interesting stuff here. For one, have you guys ever wondered how old Bubble Bass is? Well, it's confirmed in this episode during this clip right here.
So your mother has scheduled a play date for you.
I'm not 23 anymore, Mother. You'll just have to cancel it.
Well, if Bubble Bass isn't 23, then that means he's 24. So yeah, if you've ever wondered his age, yeah, he's 24. He kind of reminds me of myself, a grown man collecting collectibles and liking nerd stuff. But okay, Easter eggs, and here's the first one. If we go back years in the past to season 3, there was the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5. And this episode's really cool because it's like an Avengers style SpongeBob episode where SpongeBob, Patrick, Squidward, and Sandy team up with Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy to form an Avengers-style team, with them each getting their own superhero moniker. SpongeBob is the Quickster, Sandy is Miss Appear, she can turn invisible, Squidward is Captain Magma, and Patrick is the Elastic Waistband. Together, they're the International Justice League of Super Acquaintances, and they report to the Chief, this guy right here.
Our sources last saw Evil harassing teenagers up at Makeout Reef. You know, Makeout Reef?
Now, we haven't seen this wacky character for a long time. He really only appeared in this episode. But this all changed in Swamp Mates, with Martin Olsen reprising his role and making his first appearance in like 20 plus years. It's also worth noting that if you look on his desk, there's a bunch of like fake SpongeBob toys or altered or bootleg SpongeBob toys. And this is for a reason. This is due to FCC regulations prohibiting the advertisement of merchandise related to a children's program within or during the same programming block as that program, which makes sense. It basically means that you can't advertise other SpongeBob toys or merchandise while the show is actively airing. But yeah, if we look at his desk, we can see a bootleg SpongeBob piggy bank or coin bank, a fake version of the original SpongeBob Funko Pop, and 2 other fake figures of unknown origin. Let's keep it moving though with more Easter eggs from this same episode. And to do that, we have to rewind back to the episode Goons on the Moon. In this episode, we were introduced to the Action Dog figure, the Teenage Action Boy figure, and the Teenage Action Girl action figures. Now, we haven't seen them since Goons on the Moon, and they seem to be pretty rare collectibles. And it seems that they're referenced in Swamp Mates, as look, right here, we can see all 3 figures. Really pushing the point that Bubble Bass is a major dork. If you guys could see my bedroom, I'm very similar to Bubble Bass. But let's keep it going even more, as during Bubble Bass's imaginative description of him capturing Man Ray, for one, it shows that Man Ray is a member of Evil, another reference to the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 5. Like I said, in that episode, SpongeBob, Sandy, and the crew, they form their own Avengers Justice League style group. But so do all of the villains, with them forming Evil, which, as you guys should know, stands for every villain is lemons. I mean, come on. But there's more. For one, it also says that Man Ray is allergic to tartar sauce, and this is actually a fact. If we go back to the episode, Back to the Past, we can see that this is a fact.
Now prepare for a heaping helping of quick-drying tartar sauce.
And last but not least, it also shows that Man Ray hates the tickle belt, and this is another direct reference, this time to Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 3. More specifically, this hilarious scene where Man Ray just cannot stop laughing.
Frequency rising! Belt out of control! Belt up too high! Tickling my DNA! Make it stop!
In this episode, Midnight Snack Attack, Plankton schemes to turn his fellow campers into mindless mutants with a secret midnight snack experiment. The mini-villain imagines using the campers as the first step in a quest for world domination, but it's the tongue-in-cheek references that truly feed fans. Early on, Plankton monologues about his plan, with him saying the following.
First, I'll take over this camp, and then go to college, get my bachelor's degree in world domination science, and then take over the world!
This is a hilarious over-the-top line that riffs on classic cartoon villains, but also winks at Plankton's own academic pretensions. Karen dryly suggests he might need a certain secret formula to succeed, prompting Plankton to scoff, "Secret formula? Don't be ridiculous."
There must be some simple way to world domination. Maybe an equation, a theory.
A secret formula?
Secret formula? Don't be ridiculous.
I think the reference here is pretty clear. As you guys know, in regular SpongeBob, like the original SpongeBob SquarePants show, Plankton's #1 goal is to get the Krabby Patty secret formula. And this is a clear reference to that. What's really funny here is Plankton doesn't even know it yet. He doesn't know that that's his life goal. I'm sure if future Plankton could hear younger Plankton saying this, he'd give him a good schmack in the head. And there's actually more when it comes to this episode. Another interesting Easter egg that, to be honest with you, at first I was like, is this actually an Easter egg? But it is if you really think about it. So if we go to the movie, we can see that Plankton has this filing cabinet right here, which is kind of why I wasn't going to include this one. Like, it's just a random file cabinet, but there is some good continuity here, because if you look in Midnight Snack Attack, when we look at Plankton's laboratory in this episode, look, the same filing cabinet appears right here. And yeah, it's the same thing. So I guess this is a reference. I don't know if it was actually intentional, but it's a reference. Normally I find a lot of these Easter eggs myself. This one's from the wiki, so if you don't agree with it, blame the wiki. But also, I love the SpongeBob wiki. Shout out to the moderators. Next up is an episode filled to the brim with Easter eggs, and that's Plankton Gets the Boot from season 10. After an argument with Karen, he insulted her screensaver. Plankton finds himself kicked out of his own house, and throughout this episode we see him couch surfing at SpongeBob's place, which is kind of crazy, you know, like Plankton's tried to do a lot of crazy stuff to SpongeBob. Like one time he literally invaded his body and controlled him like a robot, but SpongeBob doesn't care, he's a chill guy, and still lets him sleep over. Now this is where the Easter eggs come in, as during this scene right here where the pair are eating popcorn, dude, there's like 15 plus Easter eggs in this one scene, so let's dive into all of them. First things first, who remembers Whirly Brains? SpongeBob and Patrick buy these things at the Bikini Bottom toy shop after watching an advertisement in that same episode, Whirly Brains, and it's usually used to play pranks on other Bikini Bottomites.
Found him!
Yep, that's him! Hi, Squidward!
Well, if we look at that shot from Plankton Gets the Boot, they're right here. We can also see Pretzel Pals, which is another cool reference. It actually references the episode Buried in Time, specifically this scene right here. Roll the clip.
It's our favorite game! Pretzel Pals!
Also, if we rewind to the episode Have You Seen This Snail?, there was this Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy paddle ball set. Well, it reappears years later in that same shot from Plankton Gets the Boot. And there's more. If you guys remember, there was an episode in the past where Patrick makes his own board game. It was called Patrick the Game.
Welcome, gamers, and behold! My game.
It's beautiful.
Well, Patrick the Game appears in this episode right here. And there's some more board games. For example, if we go back to the episode Arg, Mr. Krabs played this board game right here.
The Flying Dutchman's Treasure Hunt.
Based on a real treasure map.
This right here is the Flying Dutchman's Treasure Hunt, and it seems that the writers haven't forgotten about it because it's right here in Plankton Gets the Boot. And you guys may have noticed eels and escalators right here, which needs no introduction. This board game is iconic, and if you're a SpongeBob fan, you know exactly where it's from. But let's keep it moving, there's more. We can see this Mermaid Man action figure right here, which also appeared in the episode Mermaid Man vs. SpongeBob in this scene, and in the episode Toy Store of Doom. And we're still not done yet. There's the Pin the Tail on the Seahorse, which, to refresh your memory, is from this scene in the episode Opposite Day.
Happy, happy, Happy birthday! Happy birthday cake! Happy birthday! Pin the tail of the seahorse!
It also appeared in the episode Party Pooper Pants right here as well. So really cool to see it appearing in Plankton Gets the Boot. If we look over here, we'll see Rocky Road, which made its original appearance in Goodbye Krabby Patty. But more importantly, if we look over here, guys, there's a Krusty Krab pizza, which references the iconic episode Pizza Delivery. And for those who don't know, it also appeared in this scene in the episode I Heart Dancing. We're close, but we're not done yet. If we look over here, we can see a certain set of balloons. They're kind of spread out throughout the room. The F is over here, the N is over here, and then the U is over here. And of course, guys, this is referencing the episode Fun. That is a lot of Easter eggs in one scene, guys. Like, whoever wrote this episode is a major fan, maybe even a bigger fan than me. You know what's crazy though, guys? There's even more Easter eggs in later scenes. For example, during SpongeBob's makeover sequence, he dresses Plankton up with various props. But more importantly, if we look at SpongeBob's outfit, it's actually something we've seen before. It seems to be a recolored version of the exact outfit he wore while on a pretend date with Squidward in Love That Squid.
Sometime today would be nice.
I'm ready!
Nap time!
Missed the spot.
Here's a side-by-side, and this one I guess is a little bit more of a reach. Like, I guess you could argue that they just reused the design and it's not intended to be an Easter egg, but who knows? And to be honest, considering the fact that there's like 15 plus other Easter eggs in this episode, I do think that this was intentional, who knows? But there's even more. When SpongeBob scans Plankton's body composition with a high-tech analyzer, the readout seems to mirror a scene from Plankton's very first appearance back in the episode Plankton.
Plankton, 1% evil, 99% hot gas.
The episode Mall Girl Pearl from season 9 has a bunch of really cool Easter eggs. In this one, Pearl Krabs is determined to snag her first job at the Bikini Bottom Mall, a mission that turns into a chaotic tour of the mall in hidden SpongeBob lore. As Pearl bounces between stores trying to get hired, the background fills up with familiar faces and references for longtime fans. For example, as Pearl passes by Scorched Coral, this store right here, keep an eye out for the Diggery-Doo player from the season 2 episode Something Smells. If you're wondering who the heck I'm talking about, it's this character right here.
Hi, Tambourine Girl. Hi, Timbali Man. Hi, Didgeridoo Player.
It's been like 20 years since we've seen this character. That all changed in Mall Girl Pearl. The character would also pop up in the season 13 episode Sea Urchin and Snail Fail during this scene, making his second appearance in like 20 plus years.
Look at all those people!
I know he seems like a random background SpongeBob character, but he's a very rare character. Heading back over to Mall Girl Pearl, there's other random characters that pop up in the background that we have not seen in a long time. Other rare characters. For example, Carl, the overzealous manager from the episode Selling Out.
Hi, gentlemen, I'm Carl. I'll be your new manager.
New manager?
I think you'll find working at the Krabby-O Mondays to be both a learning experience and an enjoyable one.
Yeah, that guy right there, he's spotted twice at the mall. Once outside the Bangles and Dangles store, and later in the food court right here. Carl's cameos nod to his infamous stint running Krabby-O Mondays in season 4. So it's pretty cool to see him pop up again, even though it's also very random. But there's more. At one point, we see this graffiti door during the fight between Pearl's bullies and the crazy grandmother. As we can see right here, we can see Squidward smells and Krabs is a blank, a direct throwback to this scene from the SpongeBob episode Sailor Mouth.
Squidward smells. Good. Krabs is,
Do you kiss your mother with that mouth?
well, sometimes, but not recently.
Even SpongeBob himself only shows up in a blink and you'll miss it moment. He has just 3 quick cameos, which is kind of crazy that he was making cameos in his own show, but I guess it makes sense. This episode is all about Pearl. And there's more background cameos as well, by the way. If we look over here, we can see Mermaid Man, Barnacle Boy. If we head over to this scene, we can see Bubble Buddy. And if we take a look right here, we can find the health inspector from the iconic episode Nasty Patty.
I'm going to need you to bring me one of everything on the menu.
Excellent choice, my darling.
Coming right up.
Whoever wrote this episode definitely knows their SpongeBob lore, because it's really cool to see all of these characters that we have not seen in a long time popping up. Our next episode is Cabin of Curiosities. On a dark and stormy night at Camp Coral, SpongeBob and Patrick stumble upon a creepy cabin filled with even creepier kid campers. In one of them is a familiar fiend from SpongeBob's past, or I guess his future, albeit in a pint-sized form. Cabin of Curiosities plays out like a kid-friendly horror homage, as our heroes meet a gang of monster kids in the woods.
You are either very brave
or very foolish to venture into this dark domain.
Foolish! Definitely foolish!
Jake?
Yes, we are.
Oh, no!
My name is Predatori. That is my web. I spun it this morning.
The star of these odd campers is Kid Ferrazzu, who, as his punny name definitely implies, is the child version of the iconic SpongeBob character and just classic horror character in general, Nosferatu. It's crazy that Nosferatu is like literally like a canon SpongeBob character. Like, he's appeared on screen many times in the show. I mean, I guess this one technically isn't actually an Easter egg if Nosferatu is a regular character now. Camp Coral is a prequel show and shows a lot of the characters' younger forms, so I guess it makes sense that we would see Nosferatu's kid form, but I do think that this overall is a cool little homage at the very least. It turns out that Patrick Star sometimes needs a break, or so he decides in the episode Patrick's Staycation. Feeling overworked from his grueling routine of sleeping and snacking every day, probably just chilling at home in his rock, playing Fortnite. This guy has no life. I love Patrick, but seriously, I've watched almost every episode of the show, and Patrick is one of the laziest characters ever. But yeah, despite being the laziest character ever, Patrick longs for a vacation, but he can't afford one. Going on vacation's really expensive. You gotta pay for your flight, you gotta book a hotel, it's pricey. So enter SpongeBob, ever the problem solver, who comes up with the idea to give Patrick a luxury staycation right at home. As I always say, don't worry, I'm gonna get to the Easter egg soon, I just gotta explain all this, that way they make sense. Now eventually, we get a scene where Patrick plans his fake vacation, and it takes place at the Bikini Bottom travel agency, and it hides a fun visual reference.
So, you'd like a vacation?
Oh, great! Another thing for me to do.
Yes, he'd like a vacation.
It all depends on your budget.
On the travel agent's wall, SpongeBob and Patrick admire a framed photo of a fancy cruise ship. But this isn't just any old cruise, it actually foreshadows the very cruise ship that'll appear in this episode's sequel episode, Walking the Plankton. That's the same ship. Walking the Plankton's like the next episode after Patrick's Staycation, so this is an interesting Easter egg. It's not what we would normally cover, but it's interesting. In Walking the Plankton, Plankton lures Mr. Krabs onto a luxury ocean liner as part of a scheme, so the travel agency's glamorous cruise poster is effectively an Easter egg planting the idea. It's a clever bit of continuity between the back-to-back episodes, and is something that SpongeBob's never really done before. There isn't usually continuity between episodes like this, so yeah, it's interesting. This next episode finally brought Gary the Snail to Camp Coral, and with him comes a barrel of references spanning the SpongeBob universe. In our next episode, Camper Gary, SpongeBob discovers his pet snail has stowed away at camp. Rather than send Gary home, SpongeBob disguises him as a new camper to keep him hidden from the staff, particularly from Mrs. Puff, who turns out to hate snails, which is kind of weird because she literally has a snail in the episode The Sponge Who Can Fly, like SpongeBob helps save her snail, so this is a little bit of a continuity error, but anyways, the premise of this episode alone parallels a classic SpongeBob plot. It's essentially the summer camp equivalent of My Pretty Seahorse, where SpongeBob hid his pet seahorse mystery at the Krusty Krab.
SpongeBob, thanks for finally getting rid of that horse.
You're welcome, Mr. Krabs. It worked, girl. I'll just keep you back here until Patrick finishes that stable I asked him to build.
Years later, in Camper Gary, we see SpongeBob do something very similar to that scene from My Pretty Seahorse. As a matter of fact, the entire plot of this episode is very similar, which a lot of people think is a reference. Here's another Easter egg though. Of course, Gary eventually runs loose, and Mrs. Puff goes into full monster hunter mode, chasing the beast snail haunting the camp. She doesn't even realize that it's Gary and actually thinks that there's a real threat here. But in a very funny twist, during the chaos, Mrs. Puff offhandedly mentions the following line, and if you listen closely, this is a reference.
Mama always said I'd go out like this. Oh well, Better than being dragged back to prison.
As you heard right there, Mrs. Puff refers to being dragged back to prison. And this is a reference to the fact that Mrs. Puff has gone to prison many times in original SpongeBob. For example, in No Free Ride, she goes to jail. So it's very in character that even years before original SpongeBob in the prequel show, she had already been to jail. It seems to be a running theme in her life. There are some more Easter eggs in this episode, and I'm gonna rapid fire them. They're really cool. For one, if you look closely in SpongeBob's bunk, there's this poster right here of Mermaid Man on the wall. We also see a jar of mayonnaise amongst SpongeBob and Patrick's belongings, perhaps a wink at the famous "is mayonnaise an instrument" joke, since what camper packs mayo for a trip? Only Patrick would do that, I mean, come on. And if you look closely right here, we can find canned bread again. We've talked about this in a previous Easter egg video, and if you guys remember back in the episode Squidville, okay, where Squidward moves to go and live in like a town where it's all people exactly like him, he finds one of his favorite things that he's always been looking for.
Canned bread! This town is great!
So yeah, this is a really cool Easter egg and shows that whoever wrote this episode knows their lore. This is like a deep cut of a reference, canned bread, really cool. Let's keep it moving though. Our next episode is Call the Cops from season 11. This episode flips the script by putting SpongeBob and Mr. Krabs on the other side of the law. Plankton actually gets himself arrested after yet another failed formula theft, and the secret formula is locked up at the Bikini Bottom police station as evidence. To retrieve it, Mr. Krabs convinces SpongeBob to go undercover as police officers and infiltrate the station, a recipe for hilarious antics.
Have you got a license to sell these cookies?
Officer SquarePants, I don't think we ought to.
Let me handle this, Officer Mr. Krabs.
I don't have a license.
Yeah, that's what I thought.
As soon as they step into the station lobby, the background art delivers clever gags. For one, there's a framed photo of a donut on the wall, poking fun at the classic trope that cops love donuts, but right beside that is a wanted poster bearing a very familiar face, that of the Tattletale Strangler. I love references like this. Fans will remember this villain from SpongeBob Meets the Strangler, a legendary iconic episode, and apparently the Bikini Bottom PD is still on the lookout for him. The fact that his wanted poster appears here is a continuity nod, as if the events of that episode have been filed in police records. And the station's back room holds another Easter egg for the observant. Pinned up on the wall is a wanted poster for another iconic SpongeBob villain. Roll the clip and I'll let you guys catch it.
You can interrogate the suspect.
I don't know how to interrogate.
Then just ask questions.
Come on, you guys gotta know this one. That's Dennis, the fearsome hitman from the original 2004 SpongeBob SquarePants movie.
Name's Dennis. I've been hired to exterminate you.
Dennis's rugged mug is instantly recognizable, connecting the series to the first movie storyline even more. These background posters subtly expand the world building, implying that all of these notorious baddies share the same criminal universe. Really cool stuff. Let's talk about the Patrick Star Show, specifically the episode Bummer Jobs. In this one, the Patrick Star Show delivers a flurry of SpongeBob callbacks. Just to give you guys some context of what this episode is about though, it's pretty much about Patrick and SpongeBob looking to get a job. Patrick wants to find his purpose in life, and this turns into him looking for a job. We see their struggle of going through different types of day jobs. For example, they work as grocery baggers at a grocery store and unfortunately get fired. From here, they look for another job. As they pick themselves up, still enthusiastic, they see an old lady struggling to paint her fence. Now, if we rewind back to the episode Idiot Box, there's this scene, and it's a very iconic one where SpongeBob uses his hands to draw a rainbow and says the word
imagination.
Well, this is referenced like 20 plus years later in Bummer Jobs, as when SpongeBob and Patrick go to help that old lady, he does a very similar gesture. I love this so much. You guys know I'm like a massive nerd when it comes to the Steven Hillenburg era. I always ramble on about it in these videos, so any reference to, you know, a season 1, 2, or 3 episode, especially Idiot Box, is gonna warm my heart. And we've got more. Who remembers the episode Sailor Mouth? We've talked about this one many times before, but in this episode, Patrick and SpongeBob learn to swear, and they're taught not to. But the main thing here, as you guys know already, is whenever SpongeBob characters swear in SpongeBob, they make this sound effect.
There are 13 bad words you should never use.
Don't you mean there are only 7?
Not if you're a sailor.
Wow, 13.
That's a lot of bad words.
Well, at one point in Bummer Jobs, listen to what the porpoise says, as it sounds very similar to bad word number 11.
Let me go, you little...
Hey, watch your language!
Did you hear that? It happens closer to the ending of the episode, and that is 100% a reference to Sailor Mouth. So that's 2 classic episodes referenced in one The Patrick Star Show episode. People like to talk smack about The Patrick Star Show, but this is really good. Like, this is a good sign that the writers actually are passionate and know what they're talking about. But yeah, I've got one more Easter egg from this episode, and it happens in this next scene. In a hilarious segment, Squidina rolls out a TV and says it's time for some noir sense.
While they take a break, let's all watch another hard-boiled episode of Noir Sense.
Suddenly, we're now in a black and white detective parody where Fred the Fish is being interrogated. And if you listen to what he says, it's a very clear reference to, his entire character. This is the whole point of Fred the Fish at this point in the show, is to scream the following. This is a brilliant send-up of the running gag, my leg, usually heard whenever Fred gets hurt in classic episodes. For example, here's like a couple of times in older episodes where we hear him say it. Here's a little compilation, a little montage.
My leg! My leg!
Thank you!
My leg! My leg!
It is crazy how many things they hide in these SpongeBob episodes, how many references there are to older episodes, and I love it. Mr. Krabs has quite the misadventure in the episode My Two Krabses from season 12. It all starts with Mr. Krabs sneaking in a tanning session without his shell in his office before a date with Mrs. Puff. It's crazy to think that these two have been like on and off dating since like season 2 or 3, but anyways, eventually SpongeBob walks in to deliver some ice cream, but instead of finding Mr. Krabs, he only finds this.
Mr. Krabs! Are you okay? Speak to me!
We're gonna get into the Easter eggs, don't worry, but you guys need the context of the plot for them to make sense. But from here, SpongeBob literally assumes that Mr. Krabs has melted.
Oh, look at that! And right before his big date tonight. What a shame.
A date? Oh, must love die meltily in my arms too!
In a panic, SpongeBob and Patrick take the empty shell, determined to basically bring Mr. Krabs back to life, Frankenstein style. Meanwhile, the real and shellless Krabs realizes his shell is missing and rushes home to find something or anything to wear, really. And this is where we can find a really cool Easter egg. As he flings open his bedroom closet, and in this frantic scene, the show sneaks in a treasure from Mr. Krabs' past. I'm gonna play the clip and let's see if you guys can spot the Easter egg.
Okay, I knew that spare is in here somewhere. Aha!
Let me explain. So among the tossed outfits is this bright pink flower print cuddly crab uniform, and this is specifically from the episode Bossy Boots, a season 2 episode. Longtime fans will recall that in this episode, Mr. Krabs briefly transformed the Krusty Krab into the cutesy cuddly crab. Well, actually, it was more that Pearl did this. Mr. Krabs was kind of just forced to do it, and as you can see in this clip I'm about to play, they had to wear these exact same outfits.
Only a fool would wear that.
Avast, ye shipmates! Don't these just shiver your timbers?
Seeing this ridiculous attire resurface here, only to be deemed unwearable by Mr. Krabs, is a delightful Easter egg. It confirms that Mr. Krabs hung on to the old uniform, and it adds a layer of irony to his wardrobe scramble. But the closet gag doesn't stop there. Mr. Krabs also tosses out a chicken costume, the same one that SpongeBob once wore in the episode Cephalopod Lodge. Here's a side-by-side, and yeah, I think that that's a reference. And we've got more. Let's head over to another episode. So the continuity of SpongeBob's universe definitely gets like messed up a little bit in this next episode, Kitchen Sponge. Or maybe it was fixed, depends on who you ask. In this Camp Coral episode, young SpongeBob volunteers to help Plankton, who runs the camp's mess hall. And the goal is for him to help Plankton improve his menu. Disaster strikes in a scene that is very similar to the show's very first episode, Help Wanted. Plankton's kitchen is overrun by a ravenous swarm of fish campers. a chaos that directly references the anchovy feeding frenzy from Help Wanted, the 1999 plot where the Krusty Krab was pretty much attacked by hungry anchovies. Here in Camp Coral, it's a fun reversal. Plankton experiences the same sardine-style stampede that Mr. Krabs once did, a really cool nod to SpongeBob's origin episode. Later, Plankton decides quantity is the answer and concocts an army of Krabby Patty creatures to serve everyone. And this is another reference, as these living patties are nearly identical to the patty monsters from another SpongeBob episode, Dream Hoppers. Here's a side-by-side, and it's not exact, but it's pretty close, and I think this is a reference. In fact, the concept of sentient Krabby Patties causing mischief first appeared in Dream Hoppers, and Kitchen Sponge brings it back, showing Plankton unleashing a legion of googly-eyed burgers. Now I'm hungry. All of this, though, is light compared to this episode's ending, which has a very big moment for SpongeBob continuity. One big debate at this time was how Sandy could have been a part of Camp Coral, right, which is a prequel series to SpongeBob, when there's an entire episode in season 1 of original SpongeBob showing how Sandy and SpongeBob met. And in that episode, it's very clear they've never met before.
So, what's your name?
Sandy?
Well, in the climax of Kitchen Sponge, when SpongeBob inadvertently invents the Krabby Patty's secret formula and nearly changes history, Sandy steps in by literally calling her future self. In a sci-fi twist, adult Sandy appears via video to her younger self, congratulating her on a successful plan to keep the formula out of Plankton's hands.
Affirmative, little cheeks. This is Big Cheeks, receiving you from the future. The formula burned up before Mr. Plankton could nab it. Now it can be safely rediscovered in the future. I knew sending you to Camp Coral was the right thing to do.
Okay, so this is important. That clip right here implies that Camp Coral exists in an alternate timeline, where Camp Coral is still canon and is still a prequel, but because it's in an alternate timeline, it explains how SpongeBob meets adult Sandy in the original SpongeBob show, but also already knew her back in Camp Coral. This is a very complicated one. I hope you guys got it, but yeah, it's really cool. By having future Sandy orchestrate the events, the show winks at viewers and suggests the following. The original series and Camp Coral now diverge into separate universes. It's pretty cool, but as you guys know, let's head over to another episode. Next up is the episode In Search of Camp Nudist. In this episode, SpongeBob and friends hear a rumor of a secret nudist camp in the woods. Yes, you read that right. So the group set off on a curious quest to find it. SpongeBob, Patrick, and Sandy tromp through the forest in search of the fabled Camp Nudist, while camp counselors Mr. Krabs and Squidward chase after them in a panic. I mean, they definitely don't want a bunch of kids stumbling onto naked campers, right? As the hike wears on, Squidward grows exhausted, and this is where we could find an Easter egg. In a dramatized moment, Squidward collapses and wheezes for Camp Master Krabs to go on without him, and what follows is a cheeky nod to SpongeBob's own theme song. Mr. Krabs shrugs and immediately marches ahead while whistling this. Roll the clip.
You'll have to go on without me.
Okay.
What? Wait, hey, don't leave me alone out here!
It's a blink and you'll miss it Easter egg that longtime viewers instantly recognize, as Mr. Krabs just sang the SpongeBob SquarePants theme song, or at least a very similar version of it. I'm gonna keep these clips short just because I don't want to get destroyed by copyright, but here's like 2 seconds of the SpongeBob theme.
Who lives in a pineapple under the sea?
And if you listen here, Mr. Krabs plays pretty much the same thing. I'm gonna play it again. Here's like 2 seconds of that. Really cool, but let's head over to another episode. Just a little reminder that if you're still awake, you should be sleeping. And if you're still awake, you might as well grab your phone and subscribe to us. Please do it. I'm trying to hit 10K and we're really close. So if you enjoy my videos, I'd really appreciate it. At least I'm not like all those other crappy AI SpongeBob channels. I'm a real person. I'm gonna be doing my face reveal soon. This is my actual voice. Blah, 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 blah. There's no AI. All right, go and make AI do that, but I'll do it on camera soon to prove it. But make sure to subscribe, guys. I love you. And back to the video with some more Easter eggs. Our next episode is the Donut of Shame, a very short episode from season 5. This bite-sized episode opens with Patrick groggily waking up on SpongeBob's ceiling after what appears to have been a wild night of partying. Who knew that Patrick got so crazy, man? Like, dude was probably staying up all night eating ice cream.
Would you like another spot of tea, Ms. Nibsy? Oh, you would?
From here, Patrick notices SpongeBob still asleep, clutching a delicious-looking donut. A beautiful specimen of donuthood, as Patrick pretty much calls it. Ever impulsive, Patrick liberates the pastry from SpongeBob's hand and sneaks it home for himself. And this is where we can find some Easter eggs, or well, some references. The animators slip in a sweet nod to the show's early days. I'm gonna roll the clip and let's see if you guys can spot it.
A beautiful specimen of donuthood. A donut this nice deserves to be served on fine china.
If you didn't catch it, let me explain. Hanging on Patrick's wall is a framed picture of SpongeBob drawn in his Season 1 art style. This is very important here. It's not a modern looking version of SpongeBob. At the time, this episode was from Season 5, and he doesn't even look like his Season 5 design. It's very clearly his Season 1 design. This deliberate background detail contrasts with the episode's Season 5 visuals, playfully reminding longtime fans of SpongeBob's classic look. Now, aside from that nostalgic little Easter egg, the donut of shame peppers in a couple of other fun touches. For example, the way Patrick awakens in this scene is a spoof of horror film tropes, mirroring a similar scene from Saw of All Things. Here is a side-by-side, and what an interesting choice for a children's cartoon. But yeah, some cool little references in this episode and some facts, but let's keep it moving and head over to a different episode. In Chatterbox Gary, SpongeBob acquires a pet translation collar that finally lets his beloved snail Gary speak his mind. Imagine getting one of these for your dog or for your cat or for your hamster. It'd be pretty cool.
Hello there, Papa Bob.
Now, we're gonna get into the Easter eggs. I know that's what you clicked on this video for, but I gotta give you guys the context. That way they make sense. SpongeBob excitedly shows off Gary's new voice to his friends, but when they visit Squidward's house, the real fun begins. Gary surprises Squidward by complimenting his interior decor, revealing that he's actually a really classy snail, you know? He's got a sophisticated sense of design, as Squidward puts it.
Come, Papa Bob. Let's get out of here before this bad taste rubs off on us.
Oh, gee, do you have to?
Don't be sad, Squidward. We'll be back soon.
From here, this is where we get to our first couple of Easter eggs, and they're really, really cool, as this leads to a gallery of in-jokes adorning Squidward's walls. And eagle-eyed fans can definitely spot some of these portraits here and the references that they're referring to. For example, this one right here of handsome Squidward, referencing Squidward's briefly beautified form from the episode The Two Faces of Squidward.
Squidward, you're even more handsome now!
If we keep it moving, in another framed piece, Squidward is shown grappling with a sea bear. And this one is a very specific reference. Like, I really like this one. This one's really cool. It kind of brought back some nostalgia for me, as if we rewind to the episode, the camping episode, where SpongeBob, Patrick, and Squidward all go camping. There's this scene where Squidward refuses to heed SpongeBob and Patrick's anti-sea bear precautions. And yeah, this happens.
No, like that.
Here's a side-by-side, and yeah, this is a really cool callback. If we head back to Squidward's gallery, there's even this painting of a very specific sculpture. It's right here, I'm circling it, and it's a reference to Squidward's sculpture from the episode Are You Happy Now? Again, here's a side-by-side, and yeah, this one's also really cool. And there's more, so let's keep it going. For example, this image right here references the episode Not Normal, specifically this scene, or how about this one? This one references the episode Gone. Here's a side-by-side with the episode Gone and the picture or the portrait, and as you can see, this is a reference, really cool. There's like 3 or 4 more, but I'll let you guys talk about them in the comments. What other portraits here are references to older SpongeBob episodes? To be honest, you shouldn't even be answering this because you should be sleeping, but if you aren't sleeping, it's okay. You can answer this one, but then go like right back to sleep. All right. Anyways, though, the Easter eggs continue when Gary snoops in Squidward's closet. And guys, this is a big one, especially if you're an old school SpongeBob fan like me. I've been watching this show since I was a little kid, even during the Steven Hillenburg era, and this Easter egg really hit me in the heart. Who remembers the episode Band Geeks? In this one, Squidward's arch rival Squilliam shows up, and things get very competitive between Squidward and Squilliam, with it basically leading to Squidward having to form a band and perform at the Bubble Bowl. Well, take a look at this scene where Gary snoops through Squidward's closet.
Oh, tacky.
Hold on now.
You may have missed it, but look, Hanging inside is Squidward's marching band uniform from that episode, Band Geeks, complete with everything, like here's a side-by-side and this is a very clear reference. It's a blink and you'll miss it tribute to Squidward's triumphant Bubble Bowl performance, and it's pretty awesome. Altogether, Chatterbox Gary cleverly weaves these references into the scene, implying that Squidward has kept memories of his many adventures, from the good to the bad and even the handsome. But let's keep it moving and head over to another episode. The episode Hog Huntin' follows SpongeBob and Patrick on a wild countryside adventure, tracking down Old Man Jakin's prized worm hog, a pig-like critter, after it goes missing.
You keep your hands off my beautiful Beulah!
I wasn't touching her, I was just, admiring her beauty.
This episode dives into a ton of good humor. It plays into the whole countryman stereotype. Think barnyards, beards, and backwoods shenanigans pretty much. It's a good episode. But it also hides a couple of clever pop culture parodies. One of the first gags comes when SpongeBob stumbles on Old Man Jenkins watching his favorite soap opera, Days of Our Styes. For those of you who don't know, this title is a really funny little goof referencing the long-running soap opera, Days of Our Lives. The show's writers are clearly winking at the audience here. Bikini Bottom has its own version of Days of Our Lives, only with hogs instead of people. And if that sounds familiar, it's because SpongeBob has spoofed this exact soap opera before in the episode Wary Gary. This one is a snail-focused drama called Snails of Our Lives, played on TV as a pet parody of the same series. Later in this episode, Hog Huntin' treats us to a musical Easter egg that's perfectly in tune with the episode's country western vibe. SpongeBob and Patrick end up literally living in Old Man Jenkins' enormous beard for a while. Long story short, hiding from an angry Jenkins after a failed hog catching attempt. During their cozy exile in his facial hair, and sings a delightful ditty titled Home in a Beard. Take a listen, but we can't play it for too long because I'm not trying to get destroyed by copyright.
Home in a beard, where the whiskers and stubble are weird.
If the melody and theme sound old-timey to you, that's by design. Home in a Beard is a direct parody of the classic American folk song Home on the Range. The original 1972 song famously yearns for life on the open prairie, whereas SpongeBob's version yearns for, well, the comfort of living in a bristly old beard. I cannot relate. Between the soap opera spoofs and folk song parodies, Hog Huntin' shows that even in jellyfish fields and barns, SpongeBob's world is never far from ours, or from its own past jokes. In the episode, Pardon My Wand, another one from season 16, by the way, let me know what you guys think in the comments about season 16. I feel like there's been some really good episodes this season. But yeah, in this episode, SpongeBob comes into possession of a misplaced magician's wand. And of course, as you can imagine, SpongeBob doesn't give it back. He proceeds to cause absolute magical mayhem across Bikini Bottom, just like he does in this clip right here. Roll it.
Gary, did you redecorate the living room while I was out?
This episode is jam-packed with rapid-fire gags, as SpongeBob accidentally transforms and enchants everything in sight. And many of those gags are sly callbacks to SpongeBob's past antics. The first Easter egg appears on stage, including a very large snail with a bushy brown body. Longtime fans may recognize this creature as the elephant snail from the episode Don't Feed the Clowns, a one-off character from that episode. In that episode, the elephant snail was a circus animal that roared like an elephant and balanced on a beach ball. Well, Pardon My Wand brings the elephant snail back for an encore, making for a really cool Easter egg, as this character has not been seen since, and I don't think he's going to be seen again for a while after this. But yeah, as the episode continues, SpongeBob inadvertently casts a hiccup spell on himself, and this is where another Easter egg comes in. The uncontrollable hiccups SpongeBob makes throughout the scene might sound exactly like you've heard them before, and that's because the audio recordings of SpongeBob hiccups are literally reused from the episode Hiccup Plague. In Hiccup Plague from season 12, SpongeBob was afflicted with a citywide contagious hiccup outbreak, and Tom Kenny's ridiculous hiccup sounds in that episode were apparently so perfect that Pardon My Wand lifted them wholesale for this magic mission. Here's the Pardon My Wand version. And here's the Hiccup Plague version. And yeah, as you notice, they're like literally the exact same sound. Again, this might be a reference, but this might also just be the team being lazy. Tom Kenny is very old now, guys. He's aging, and honestly, if you even listen to his voice in the most recent SpongeBob movie, you can hear the age. So I imagine that they save certain sounds that he has to make so he doesn't have to redo them when he comes into the studio. That's just my theory, but who knows? As SpongeBob gleefully skips through town wielding the unruly wand, Pardon My Wand turns into a rapid montage of magical callbacks. For example, SpongeBob accidentally transforms a couple's boatmobile into a gigantic orange sea snake. If it seems familiar, it's because that very same slithery creature appeared in the season 14 episode Squiddiot Box, when Squidward's imagination turned against him. If we look at a side-by-side, I'd say that these two are the same snake. They're the same color, and yeah, I think it's the same character. But the surprises continue as SpongeBob prances past familiar locals. For example, he skips by the exact same bench from the episode Something Smells. Here's a side-by-side, and yeah, I think they're the same. I mean, this old bench is drawn and placed exactly as it was in that season 2 episode, making it a little piece of SpongeBob history plunked into the background. Moments later, SpongeBob twirls past the ice cream parlor from the episode Hall Monitor. Here's another side-by-side, and it's definitely the same. And yeah, longtime viewers have seen this ice cream shop multiple times now. It's where SpongeBob caused mayhem as a Hall Monitor, and where Patrick got severe and comical sunburn back in the episode Sun Bleached. So its presence here further cements the idea that all these episodes share one connected lived-in world, a point that I've been pushing for the past couple of videos. Finally, Pardon My Wand caps off its reference parade with a brilliant deep cut. In the mayhem, SpongeBob accidentally shrinks Squidward, very similarly to the way he did back with Mermaid Man's belt. But yeah, this leaves Squidward tiny in his own garden. As if on cue, the same cockroach from the episode Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4 appears, towering over Mini Squidward and proceeding to rough him up.
Huh? Why is everything all tiny?
This is a direct homage of Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy 4 from season 3, making for another really cool reference. Another spooky episode is Curse of the Were-Doodle. This Halloween special brings back one of SpongeBob's scariest creations, Doodlebob. But honestly, Doodlebob's one of my favorite characters. Like, he's awesome. Take a look at this funny clip from his original episode. But yeah, in this episode, Curse of the Were-Doodle, SpongeBob is bitten by Doodlebob, the wicked pencil-drawn duplicate of SpongeBob from season 2's Frankendoodle, and this transforms him into a were-doodle. This happens whenever the moonlight hits, and it's essentially a werewolf-like doodle version of himself. Take a look at this clip. As a tribute to his pencil-drawn roots, the episode is overflowing with references to Frankendoodle, and even a recent Doodlebob cameo, making it a goldmine for fans of SpongeBob lore. Once SpongeBob's Were-Doodle side starts wreaking havoc, the homages come fast and furious. For example, take a look at the way the Were-Doodle repeatedly body slams Mr. Krabs in this scene right here. Dude, he's just like flinging the poor crab back and forth like a rag doll. But this is a direct visual callback to Doodlebob's infamous beatdown of Squidward in Frankendoodle. Doodleboy, stop! Did you guys catch that? As in that 2002 episode, Doodlebob pounced on Squidward and smashed him flat in the exact same manner. This has also happened before. If we go back to the episode Squiddiot Box, Doodlebob does the exact same thing. Take a look. Yeah, really cool references here, guys, and there's more. Let's keep it rolling. As the Were-Doodle's next rampage moment is another scene ripped straight from Frankendoodle. As you guys just seen, the Were-Doodle took that long wooden beam and turned it into a pencil by chewing on it. And longtime fans will immediately recall Doodlebob's tactic in Frankendoodle, where he grabbed the magic pencil and did the exact same thing after it snapped, complete with the same frenzied sharpening sound effects. Seeing the Were-Doodle do this with an entire wooden post is a hilarious escalation of the reference. And the episode doesn't stop there. During the climax of the episode, during the chase, the Were-Doodle defeats Bubble Bass by drawing a quick hole on the ground, which results in this happening to Bubble Bass. Roll the clip.
No! No! No!
This trick is a carbon copy of Doodlebob's strategy from Frankendoodle, of course, where the villainous Doodle sketched a pit to trap SpongeBob and Patrick. In Curse of the Weredoodle, the context has changed, with Bubble Bass being the unlucky victim this time. But the visual gag is an instant whole, complete with the scribbled edges and Bubble Bass's shocked expression as he drops through the hand-drawn void. This episode, Curse of the Weredoodle, is very good. So many cool Easter eggs in it. In the episode Terror on Tape, the Star family spend a spooky day watching a collection of haunted VHS tapes, a collection that they got from the Flying Dutchman. Again, this is really cool, another example of them kind of building up the SpongeBob world and bringing it all together. Back in the day, if you guys remember, the Flying Dutchman was like a rare character. Like, it's not like he never appeared, but he didn't appear in every episode, and he wasn't a background character. If he did appear, he was a big part of the plot. So it's cool to see that he's just like a normal character in this episode. But anyways, this episode goes on to essentially be an anthology of mini horror spoofs, with each cursed take telling a different creepy tale, starring Patrick and his family. The episode crams in homages to famous horror tropes, and even a legendary sound effect, one that only sharp-eared and sharp-eyed fans will catch. During a chaotic scene, a hapless background fish falls overboard from the ship Fancy, and take a listen to what happens next.
We're off the menu!
If you've heard that little scream before, it's because it's a very iconic sound effect, the Wilhelm scream. This scream, a classic stock sound effect used in countless films since the 1950s, is a beloved inside joke among sound editors and movie buffs. And hearing it pop in Patrick's haunted tape is a treat for fans. But yeah, its appearance in Terror on Tape is both a cheeky nod to horror cinema and a self-aware gag about the rarity of that scream in the series. But let's keep it going, there's more. Each cursed tape Patrick watches is a send-up of a different horror genre, and the episode's artists take the opportunity to reference a beloved horror anthology film. Slayground is presented in a vivid, stylized color scheme that horror fans might find familiar. In fact, the color design of the Slayground, with its lurid reds, deep blues, and comic book style shading, is directly inspired by the 1982 horror comedy film Creepshow. Creepshow, directed by George Romero and written by Stephen King, used bold comic book panel visuals and dramatic lighting to emulate old EC horror comics. And Terror on the Tape lovingly imitates that look. In Slayground, when Patrick and Squidina explore a cursed playground, the frames occasionally freeze into drawn comic panels with saturated colors and eerie lighting, just as Creepshow did. And yeah, this is a really good episode, especially if you're a fan of like Halloween and horror. I know it isn't very fitting right now. Go give the episode a watch, it's a good one. In the season 16 episode Pigskin Pearl, Pearl Krabs joins her high school football team and unexpectedly becomes their new star player, leading Bikini Bottom High into a championship game. I personally really like episodes like this because they're not as focused on SpongeBob and are giving other characters a chance to shine, like Pearl. This has actually happened a couple of times now. Like, we had a whole episode, Mall Girl Pearl, which was all about Pearl getting a job at the mall. I think SpongeBob only appears for like a second in that episode, and there's plenty of others, but this episode in particular celebrates Pearl's athletic prowess, while SpongeBob and Patrick enthusiastically cheer her on from the sidelines. As the game unfolds, the animators slip in nods to earlier SpongeBob adventures that eagle-eyed fans will definitely recognize. For instance, when Patrick scrambles up the towering bleachers to reach the announcer's booth, he suddenly dons a familiar getup, a Swiss mountaineer's outfit complete with an alpine hat and gear. Does this look familiar to you guys? Longtime viewers will remember Patrick wearing a nearly identical Swiss mountain climbing outfit back in the season 3 episode New Student Starfish, during this gag right here.
Come in, SpongeBob!
It seems the Pigskin Pearl team gave Patrick's old costume a bit of a redesign here, but the homage is definitely clear. Another fun reference comes via Pearl's fearsome opponents in the episode. I mean, just listen to this clip right here and listen to what they call the rival football team, like the team's name.
The New Kelp City Delinquents. Their entire team has been held back in school for decades.
As you just heard, the rival football team is called the New Kelp City Delinquents, a team name that in itself is an Easter egg. New Kelp City is a location introduced in the special SpongeBob episode, Whatever Happened to SpongeBob, also known as Who Bob What Pants, which is actually a much cooler title. But yeah, this is the first time we heard of New Kelp City.
Citizens of New Kelp, come out of the shadows!
'cause Cheese Boy kicked the bubble poppin' gang right out of town.
This is an historic day for New Kelp City. You have rid this city of the bubble poppin' boys.
It's a rare location that is very rarely brought up, and originally was kind of exclusive to whatever happened to SpongeBob. The location was made just so that SpongeBob could go missing and end up in New Kelp City. So it's really cool to see it referenced in season 16 so many years later. This is like a deep cut. Also, by naming the rival football team after that city, the episode is like subtly connecting Pearl's high school sports story to SpongeBob's broader universe. And again, I've said this in the past couple of Easter egg videos, this is something Nickelodeon has been doing a ton in season 16. But yeah, let's keep it going. There's some more Easter eggs in this episode. So the climax of Pigskin Pearl delivers perhaps the most heartwarming one though. When Pearl is down and doubting herself, SpongeBob steps in to give her a confidence boost. And if you take a look at this clip, it's somewhat of a reference to an older SpongeBob episode.
You look nervous. I'm gonna share a special cheer with you. My grandma taught it to me. When days are tough and things go bad, grandmas help you not feel sad. Remember to just be you.
As you just seen, SpongeBob performs a sweet cheer that Grandma SquarePants taught him, advising Pearl to just be you when times are tough. Well, this entire scene mirrors an older scene from the episode Rock Bottom. Now, they're not identical, but it's more the fact of SpongeBob quoting something from his grandmother. Take a look at the clip and you'll see what I mean.
I guess Grandpa SquarePants was right. Don't run for a bus. Especially one that's going up at a 90-degree angle.
If you listen closely, SpongeBob does that same high-pitched voice that he did in Pigskin Pearl, showing that these two are a little bit of a reference. Either way, the fact that Grandma SquarePants was brought up in general is somewhat of a cool reference. She isn't in the show very often anymore and had a big appearance back in the episode Grandma's Kisses. She was actually a lot more present if you remember, like back in season 1, 2, and 3, so seeing her being referenced in season 16 is really cool. In the episode Tag You're It, it's a rainy day at Camp Coral, which means everybody can't really play outside. I mean, you could, but you're gonna get wet. It's better to avoid it. So everybody finds a way to entertain themselves indoors, specifically with a crazy game of tag. It's an alright episode, but what we're really here for, guys, you guys know what we're really here for, and it's Easter eggs. And the first one can be found during this scene, where we see Sandy flush her helmet almost like it's a toilet or a drain. If that looks familiar, it's because this is another direct reference, okay? This is a direct reference to OG SpongeBob, specifically the episode Texas. In this episode, Sandy starts missing her home state of Texas, and she gets very emotional. We get a couple scenes of her crying, and in one scene, she has to empty out her water bowl. Roll the clip. This is kind of like a deep cut reference, and it's cool to see that the creators of Camp Coral also knew to include this type of stuff. And there's more in Tag You're It. I really like this one, but if we go to the point in the episode about 13 minutes in and 40 seconds, if we pause at the right frame, you'll notice that there's a jar of mayo on Patrick's shelf. And this is most likely a reference to him asking if mayonnaise is an instrument in Band Geeks. Patrick seems to have some sort of obsession with mayo, which is also why it might be there. But yeah, who knew that Camp Coral actually had some cool Easter eggs like this? Next up is the episode The Jellyfish Kid, and this is actually the very first episode of Camp Coral, a 3D animated SpongeBob spin-off that I'm sure a lot of you guys are familiar with. I'm not the biggest fan of this show, I'm not gonna lie. I think the Patrick Star Show is much better, but you're not here for my opinion, you're here for Easter eggs, and there are some really cool references in this episode. For one, if we take a look at this scene and we pause at the right frame right here, we'll notice that there's this photo on Mr. Krabs' drawer. And if we zoom in, we'll see that it's him holding Pearl as a baby. Now, if this shot looks familiar, it's because this photo is a direct reference to an older SpongeBob episode. If we rewind all the way back to the episode Selling Out, we can find this exact same photo right here. Let's do a side by side. Yeah, this is a reference, and a really cool reference. Like I said, I'm not a big fan of Camp Coral, but I love that this reference is here. But there's also more. One of my favorite episodes is the classic SpongeBob episode Sailor Mouth, where SpongeBob and Patrick come across swear words and they start swearing, something they shouldn't do. You know, they shouldn't be swearing.
Hi, Squidward! How the are ya?
Nice Hey, isn't it, Squidward?
Every time they swear, though, it's referred to having a sailor's mouth, and this is also referenced in the Jellyfish Kid. In Camp Coral, it's basically like a summer camp, right? So every person has their own dorm, and in SpongeBob's dorm, we see this list of rules right here. And as you can see, one of the rules is no sailor mouth, making for another really cool reference. In the episode Visiting Vikings, Patrick and SpongeBob celebrate Leif Erikson Day by embarking on a time-traveling journey to the actual Viking times. Courtesy of some of Patrick-style nonsense, they wind up in the era of real Vikings, complete with long beards and Norse helmets.
Who are you? We are from the future, where you are a fearsome Viking warrior. But it looks like we got here a little early. So I guess it's up to us to mold you from Meatball Boy into a real Viking warrior.
This zany premise is itself a deep-cut reference. Leif Erikson Day has been mentioned in SpongeBob before, and this episode goes out of its way to honor that legacy. Early on, as Patrick gears up for the holiday, SpongeBob makes a special appearance wearing a traditional Viking helmet and a big red beard. It looks good on him, right? Like, what do you guys think? I think it looks good on him. But yeah, SpongeBob cheerfully exclaims, "Hinga dinga durgan." And you know what? Me saying it didn't do it justice. Play the clip of SpongeBob saying it.
Hi, SpongeBob, hi!
Happy Leif Erikson Day! Hinga-dinga-durgan.
Now, longtime fans should instantly recognize this costume and catchphrase from the classic Season 2 episode Bubble Buddy, as we get a very similar scene. This is 100% a reference. In Bubble Buddy's opening, SpongeBob wished everyone a happy Leif Erikson Day, and to do this, he dresses up in a very specific outfit and says something very, very specific. Roll the footage.
Hey, everybody! It's Leif Erikson Day! Hinga-dinga-durgan.
As you guys just seen, SpongeBob dresses up as a stereotypical Viking while uttering that same goofy Norwegian phrase, Hinga dinga durgan. This is another one that's connecting the universes, as this episode, Visiting Vikings, is technically a The Patrick Star Show episode, but what was just referenced is from old school SpongeBob, thus connecting the two shows even more. I know I keep on rambling on about that, but it's clear that, like, Nickelodeon is being very intentional about this. I might do a whole video just on this topic. Set in the Camp Coral spin-off series, Squizzery is a campfire-side adventure that teams up a young Squidward and Patrick. The title itself hints at a parody. It's a riff on the Stephen King story, Misery. Fittingly, Squidward breaks his ankles and is stuck being cared for by Patrick, which is very similar to the Stephen King story itself. But don't worry, we're not going to be talking about that boring stuff. The episode strands Squidward and Patrick in the woods, forcing the unlikely pair to survive together overnight.
Your legs look funny. Are you okay?
Of course I'm not okay. Look at me. My ankles are more twisted than a pretzel.
This prequel setting allows for some playful continuity twists and Easter eggs that cross-reference the main SpongeBob timeline. For example, one early gag in this episode quietly contradicts a beloved classic episode. Patrick is distracted by a boot and ends up tying up this boot.
Patrick!
Sorry again, Mr. Tentacles. Just tying my shoe. Ready!
Now, this is kind of a problem, guys, as if we rewind back to the iconic SpongeBob episode, Your Shoes Untied, there's something from that episode that the writer of Squizzery clearly missed. In that Season 2 episode, neither SpongeBob nor Patrick knew how to tie their shoes at all. It's like the main plot point. I know that it is technically an alternate universe, as I established earlier, but it's still technically a prequel, so it's just very weird that Patrick in the prequel knows how to tie his shoes, but then doesn't know how to tie his shoes in the regular SpongeBob show. This was likely just a fun oversight, but for me personally, I can't imagine Patrick forgetting how to tie his shoes by adulthood. But anyways, let's get to the Easter eggs and references. Those are more interesting, as there are also hints of Patrick's future living situation. While stranded and needing a place to stay, Patrick cobbles together a shelter made out of wooden planks that's shaped exactly like his iconic rock home.
Check it out! I built us a rock!
You built a rock?
Uh-huh.
Out of logs?
Yep.
Right next to an actual rock?
Correct.
This is a really cool bit of continuity and a cool reference to the original SpongeBob show. But keeping it moving, meanwhile, Squidward's misery in the woods gives rise to a brilliant pop culture reference. As Patrick cheerfully prevents Squidward from escaping, for Squidward's own good of course according to Patrick, Patrick responds to Squidward's orders with a deadpan line that may be familiar to some nerds out there.
Just leave me alone!
I'm afraid I can't do that, Mr. Tentacles. Until you're all better, I'm going to do everything for you. See?
This is actually a direct parody of Hal 9000's famous line where he says the following.
Open the pod bay doors, Hal.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
So yeah, this is a reference to 2001: A Space Odyssey, a really cool reference for sci-fi fans. But visually, Squizzery keeps the Easter eggs coming. We're not done yet. At one point, a completely out-of-place landmark appears during Squidward and Patrick's trek back to camp. The Brooklyn Bridge can be glimpsed in the background right over here. It's a surreal blink-and-you'll-miss-it detail, implying the camp might be nearer to the surface world than we thought. But more likely, it's just a funny gag. Once the pair finally return to Camp Coral at sunrise, with Squidward tied to Patrick's back, they stumble into the boys' cabin. And this is where we can find some more Easter eggs, but we need to keep our eyes peeled, okay? For a split second, we can see SpongeBob inside reading this Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy comic book, which makes perfect sense in this timeline. Of course, young SpongeBob would be a huge fan of superheroes, especially the Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy series. And there's a few more things here, alright? When everybody leaves and Squidward and Patrick dance, we can see the camper rules list right here, and one amusing rule reads, all jazz must be smooth. This is also a reference. It's a wink to the SpongeBob episode Smooth Jazz at Bikini Bottom, the episode where Squidward obsesses over smooth jazz legend Kelpie G.
So nice to be surrounded by such kindred spirits.
You can say that again. It's a rare treat to mingle with true diehard smooth jazzes.
You said it, lady! I've been a diehard since 10 this morning!
Clearly, even as a kid, Squidward is already enforcing jazz standards in their shared space, with him demanding that any jazz in his dorm must be smooth. Very funny. The episode Bunny Hunt is a later season gem loaded with background Easter eggs and continuity nods, all wrapped in a silly plot about a wild sea bunny infestation. The episode finds Squidward's garden overrun by a cute but destructive sea bunny named Bunny Wunny, leading to ever-escalating chaos. Like, this bunny is a troublemaker. But let's get into the Easter eggs, as longtime viewers will recognize Squidward's backyard setting from an earlier episode. At the climax, dozens of bunnies swarm and even pop out of a wooden shed behind Squidward's house. And it might just seem like some random shed, but that shed is a blink and you'll miss it reference to another episode, The Curse of Bikini Bottom from season 7. In that episode, a shed randomly appeared in Squidward's yard for a gag.
Let's go look for something to do in Old Man Squidward's shed!
But it isn't actually a part of Squidward's actual house layout. If we look at other episodes and we see his backyard, the shed isn't there. So its reappearance here years later is a delightful continuity nod for fans who remember the one-off structure. The interiors of SpongeBob's pineapple in this episode are also a treasure trove of callbacks. When SpongeBob temporarily adopts the Sea Bunny, we see his living room shelves decorated with familiar mementos. Notably, this ball right here, which is Gary's toy ball, which is actually from an episode, Gary's New Toy.
Okay, that's just creepy. Gary, I think you need to spend some time away from this ball. This isn't helping your case.
It's right here on the shelf, making for a cool reference. Here's a side-by-side. And nearby is SpongeBob's ukulele from the classic Fun Song and the episode of the same name. SpongeBob even has a framed photo of a baby Gary the Snail. However, this little touch actually created a little bit of a continuity puzzle. I mean, how would SpongeBob have a baby picture of Gary if, according to the new canon, he met Gary as a kid at Camp Coral? We've talked about this before, but let me clarify. As Nickelodeon has ultimately confirmed that Camp Coral exists in an alternate timeline from the main series. In other words, the main SpongeBob from the core SpongeBob universe likely raised Gary from a young age, hence the baby photo here, whereas Camp Coral is a separate take on their origin. It's interesting stuff, but just wanted to clarify it. But let's keep it moving because there's a lot of references in this episode. Even if we pop over to Squidward's house, as hanging on his wall is a painting that spoofs another famous painting called The Scream, created by Edvard Munch. I hope I said it correctly. I'm sorry, Edvard Munch, if I said your name wrong. Just this time, as you guys can see, it has a more Squidward touch to it. Here's a side-by-side. Even more surprising, though, is the cameo of an extremely obscure character. This human supervillain with a clam on his head appeared once in the very first Mermaid Man and Barnacle Boy episode, back in 1999.
Oh no! The raging whirlpool!
But after an 18-year absence, he actually shows up again in this episode, on a comic book cover that SpongeBob shields from Bunny Wunny's destruction. It's a blink and you'll miss it detail, but a really cool one that's also pretty rewarding to fans that know their SpongeBob lore. I mean, clearly some of the SpongeBob staff are just as obsessed with SpongeBob lore as I am, as Clamhead Candy Cat's inclusion, however brief, acknowledges the depth of the Mermaid Man universe, and is a treat for any of the nerds out there that remember all of the different villains from SpongeBob. But Bunny Hunt doesn't just reference SpongeBob's past. It throws in a bit of real-world culture too. Squidward, ever the sophisticated squid, drops a couple of French phrases during this episode, and if you were ever wondering what he said, I got you covered. At one point, he exclaims, "Sacre bleu," when speaking to a wooden dummy, a mild, old-fashioned French curse equivalent to the word damn it. Later, during a melodramatic funeral for his garden, Squidward sighs, "C'est la vie," meaning that's life in French. Some more fun facts for you guys right there. And I guess it's canon that Squidward can speak French, which is kind of fitting to his character. It's also kind of a smart way to sneak in a swear. Damn it is kind of like an edgy word, and you don't see a lot of characters from kid shows saying it, so it being in French was a way for Nickelodeon to sneak it in. At least that's my theory. A game theory. And let's head over to another episode.